Good morning. It's actually almost overwhelming, the number of people we've got here. But welcome back to the ICC in Birmingham, for those of you that have been before. Our Connect conference kicked off yesterday with a series of very well-attended workshops. It shows how strong our community is and your commitment to it. That so many of you actually gave up your weekend and family time to participate in this event. We really are in full swing now. The show floor last night and this morning were absolutely buzzing. And in fact, we're at a record number of attendees this year, far exceeding where we were in the pre-COVID era. The appetite to collaborate and network with peers is stronger than ever. And I'd also like to welcome members of the international SAP user community. So bonjour to our French guests, and buenos dias to our Spanish guests. I'm not quite sure where you are, but anyway, hello. So on behalf of UKISUG, I'd also like to say a massive thank you to all of the partners that are supporting this great event this year. As we conclude our 35th successful year as an independent SAP user group, I am today announcing that this will actually be my last conference as your chair. Looking back at my tenure, collaboration and networking have been at the heart of all that we have done and the mission of this user group. It's through collaboration and networking that we educate ourselves on new approaches to solving common business problems. It's through collaboration that new innovations are often driven. And it's often networking with peers at events like this or special interest groups that many of us have developed and flourished in our careers. I started my tenure as the Brexit chair. Who remembers those frenetic weeks when we had to work out what to do with our SAP systems? I then found myself very quickly moving on to be the coronavirus chair. That gave me the privilege of overseeing, actually, the UK SUG's transformation to a much more hybrid organisation. COVID probably brought us our biggest challenge we've ever had as a user group. As an organisation heavily focused on physical events, our very survival was in question. But thankfully, we've always been a very well-run organisation with a strong balance sheet and cash reserves. Our team in Teesside did an amazing job at pivoting our offering and delivering a whole range of virtual events and driving much more online collaboration than we'd ever seen before as a user group. We also invested heavily in fostering and supporting not just the mental health of our team and our volunteers, but also helping you all drive and support mental health initiatives in your organisations. In the last couple of years, we've invested much more heavily in the education part of our mandate. And I'm delighted to announce that the UK SAP user group S4HANA Technical Academy that we announced last year up here on stage will go into a pilot phase in the first half of 2024. If you're interested in how this academy is going to work, or you can help, or if you'd like to register to be part of the pilot, please pop along to the academy stand in the exhibition hall. I'm sure Conor Reardon, who takes over from me as chair next year, will do a great job in continuing to drive this really important initiative forward. Shifting to our relationship with SAP. First off, I'd like to welcome SAP's new UK&I Managing Director, Ryan Podging, to Connect. We look forward to working with Ryan and to drive value from SAP for you, our members. It's important to remember, though, that as an independent user group, we are here to represent the views of our members. Sometimes those are views that SAP wants to hear, and sometimes they aren't. But one thing is for sure, we as customers and users want a strong SAP. Through our subscriptions, licenses, and maintenance payments, we have clearly continued to invest in SAP. However, that investment has to yield a fair return for customers as well as shareholders. At the heart of it, there's a friction between SAP and our members that often sits there. If I go back to Alan Boland's time as chairman, he dealt with the issue of enterprise support. where SAP was trying to force a new and more expensive support offering onto customers. After some tension, we and Sujin worked together with SAP to a solution that worked for customers and SAP. Then came the issue of indirect licensing. My predecessor, Philip Adams, had the task of dealing with SAP on this issue, which resulted in a breakdown of trust between SAP and many of its customers. But after a bumpy ride, we, along with the other global user groups, managed to get SAP to recognize that the customers needed a more transparent and fairer approach to licensing. The point being that on the road, there's always been bumpy. But when we work constructively together, challenges can be solved. Right now, we're at a point where we are facing into a breakdown in trust. On-premise and hosted customers are unhappy, to put it mildly, with the statement from Christian Klein stating that SAP would only be releasing new innovations into the cloud. This isn't a small minority of customers. When this was announced, we decided to survey our members first before we joined and commented on the debate. Research we have conducted amongst our membership shows 79% of you have moved to S/4HANA on an on-premise or hosted deployment. And of those that are planning to move to S/4HANA, 70% plan to move to on-premise or the hosted versions. Back in 2020, SAP's board member, Thomas Swareg, talked about giving customers choice between cloud and on-premise deployments. We were told that SAP believed in a hybrid future. Yet Mr. Swareg didn't once say that cloud deployments came with full innovation, while other flavors of S/4HANA didn't. We were also told that S/4HANA would be supported until 2040. There was no caveats that major innovation could only be delivered to public and private cloud customers using RISE with SAP or GROW. Why did SAP not tell us that new innovation was only going to be available to cloud customers? Did they not think it was important in our decision-making process? These are the questions our members have been asking us. I've heard the more cynical amongst you suggest that SAP didn't disclose this strategy before because customers choosing to stay on-premise might not have made the S4 move at all. I also know members that SAP itself have told to remain on-premise. Why? Because the size, complexity, and criticality of their SAP implementations were deemed too difficult and risky to move to the cloud. Will they be exempt from these future SAP innovations? If so, surely they should have been told that they were initially investing in their move to S/4HANA. The bottom line is, customers that have moved to on-premise or hosted implementations of S/4HANA feel misled. From a UKISUG perspective, this is a significant percentage of our membership. If SAP refuses to communicate more on this matter, there is a real risk many of those planning to migrate to S/4HANA may change their plans. And for those who have already migrated to an innovationless future, we'd be surprised if those choose to invest in other SAP platforms. I've already heard a number of on-premise and hosted customers suggest they expect large-scale reductions in support and maintenance costs as they're now running an inferior version of S/4HANA. I can see their point. Surely a less feature-rich product costs less to support and maintain. Others are asking if SAP intends to refund or part refund them, as they are not providing the product or service they were told about. We've raised these issues with SAP, and to date, they've remained publicly silent. And for those of you at SAP listening today, I urge you to engage and work towards a solution that rebuilds trust and addresses the concerns of our membership, the majority of whom, as we saw earlier, have on-premise or hosted deployments. Work with us to build bridges and enable on-premise customers to access innovation. In private, some SAP executives have told individual on-premise members that there's no technical reason why they couldn't access the majority of innovation through BTP. If this is true, then tell us. If it isn't, please stop miscommunicating. As customers, what we want is open and transparent relationships with our vendors like SAP, where we can feel valued and we can trust SAP. This isn't something that can be resolved by the local team in the UK and Ireland, where our collaboration is extremely strong. Instead, it requires action from those at the top of SAP, rather than choosing to please investors over customers. Think about pleasing your customers, as without them, your investors will soon disappear. At the German-speaking user group conference in September, SAP's CEO said no customer would be left behind. Hopefully, in the coming months, we can work together to make this a reality and ensure that all customers and our members have access to innovation and aren't penalized for investing in an on-premise or hybrid version of S/4HANA. It's been an absolute pleasure to serve as chair of your user group for the last 6 years. We've continued to flourish and evolve, and most importantly, we've kept relevant. None of this could have been achieved without the relentless hard work of our team up in Teesside and all of my fellow volunteers. A huge thank you to you all. But I leave my biggest thanks to our CEO, Craig Dale. Craig is one of a kind, and his support to me has been invaluable, and his dedication to our community is unwavering. Thank you, and have a great rest of the event. Thank you.